Hello, folks, and welcome to our Study Abroad webinar. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are going to get started in just a minute or two once our participants have a chance to log in. But we are here with our Director of the Study Abroad Program and Global Education Program, Dr. Marisa Atencio, as well as two awesome students who have had great study abroad experiences and want to tell you more about it. So I'm going to let them introduce themselves here in just a moment. We will be taking your questions, so please feel free to start sending questions to us through the Q&A button at any time. We will get to those a little bit later, but we are welcoming you to start sending them now if you do have any questions you want to ask to our panelists. We will give folks, like I said, just a moment here to log in. My name's Kelly. If you've watched any of our webinars, you've probably seen me work in our admission office, and I will be facilitating. So please send us your questions through the Q&A, like I said. We will also, spoiler alert, have a quick poll for you later on, so look out for that because we want you to participate there. But we will just give folks another minute or so here. There are a good number of you registered. I'm really excited to tell you about all of our study abroad options today. Yay, we already have some folks asking questions in the Q&A, so that is awesome. Please send us those questions and we will get to as many of them as we can. All right, so just one more second here. We are excited to talk to you about all of your options. So send us those questions. We'll get to as many of them as possible. And in just a minute here, we will introduce our awesome panelists. Hope everybody's excited about getting back out into traveling again here soon. You know, that's a little bit odd right now, but we are really excited for you to have that option during your time at Oglethorpe, and we think it is super important for you to start planning early. So that is why we want to talk to you today about the way that you can get started planning your potential study abroad journey down the line. All right, so we will continue to have a few folks still join us, but I think we will go ahead and get started and let our panelists introduce themselves. So Marisa, would you like to go first?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Really excited to talk about study abroad. I am the Assistant Dean and Director for Global Education here at Oglethorpe. I have a long list of experiences working in higher education and global education specifically, but it really all started for me in, well, I don't want to say the year, that dates me too much, but let's say 2 decades ago when I studied abroad as an undergraduate student. So I have a lot of, you know, personal investment as a product of study abroad and seeing students go abroad. I know how transformational it was for me as a student, and I get excited every time I get to talk to students about study abroad because of that.
Perfect. Maybe we could hear from Christina next.
Okay, hey everyone, my name is Christina Mitchell and I'm going into my 3rd year here at Oglethorpe. I'm a sociology major and Spanish minor, and my minor in Spanish is actually the reason why I studied abroad. I did the Lead Abroad Barcelona program, and that was the summer after my freshman year. And it was just 5 weeks of art history and Spanish classes, and I loved it.
Hey, and Lola, please.
Hello, everyone. My name is Lola, and I am a rising senior at Oglethorpe University. I am taking a double major in politics and economics. I studied abroad at the University of Oxford last spring, spring 2020, and it was very, very interesting. It was like one of the best moments of my life. And what else? I'm quite involved on campus. I am currently the president of Epsilon Iota Psi sorority. I'm also part of Black Student Caucus, and we're excited to see you guys next fall.
Perfect. Thank you guys so much. A couple of rock stars on our panel here. So I think we can go ahead and get started. Would you like me to go ahead and pull up our presentation, Marisa?
That'd be great. Thank you. So I have a little bit of formal visual slides to go along. I think this will just help for those of us that are visual learners like myself. I like to have something to look at while I'm listening to someone speak. So just know that's the idea here, is to help make sure we have some visual guide, but we will focus a lot of our time talking through the questions that you have and hearing about student experiences. So Global Ed at Oglethorpe, we are a 2-person powerhouse team. Myself and Peter Dye work together to support a number of different things related to global education. We like to think about global ed as global learning, and so it's all about how we can get students having experiences and engaging with peers, because study abroad is a big part of global learning, but it's not the only way to learn globally. And I think focusing a little bit on the day-to-day things you can do while you're here at Oglethorpe and in Atlanta, in addition to the amazing opportunities that are out there abroad, are a big part of what global learning does. So we work with students around study abroad and internships specifically, as well as international students and our students that are Dream US scholars. And I won't focus on what all that means, but just know that makes up a little bit of what we do in global ed. If you go to next slide. So what are global learning experiences? And I think thinking about what's happened over the last year or so, at Oglethorpe, we are really proud of having lots of things happening on campus. And so last year we had Tibetan monks that were creating a mandala throughout a week. We had, an interactive opportunity to exchange and understand what that ceremony is about. We had visitors from Japan that included the director of the Japan Institute of International Affairs doing a talk about Japan-US relationships and some examples of sustainability. We have International Education Week, sharing of culture that is predominantly student-led. Our Global Ambassador Program, our OU singers visited China on a cultural exchange tour. Our basketball team did some training in Costa Rica. And so I just want to highlight that global learning and study abroad, again, at Oglethorpe, really can happen both on campus as well as off campus. And so I want to highlight that through the words that you're seeing on these slides, the opportunities to connect with Petrols from 35 countries, the ways that our faculty set up our lectures, how we do team projects and hands-on experiences in the A Lab, social activities, and I think our students can really, talk about that. And then there are obviously credit-bearing things like study abroad. The goal being to heighten awareness of your own culture and systems of living, and then develop a greater appreciation for the cultures and systems worldwide, gaining those skills that come from those experiences while you're building cross-cultural relationships. So if we can do a quick poll, one of the things I love to know about students, and so I'm going to ask for your interaction here, if we can get a poll up. These are some quotes related to travel. And so I'd like you, if you would, to take a look at these quotes, and I'm going to read them to you. I'll read the first one actually, and I'll let, we'll go down through. So perhaps travel cannot prevent bigotry, but by demonstrating that all peoples cry, laugh, eat, worry, and die, it can introduce the idea that if we try to understand each other, we may even become friends. Christina, you want to read the next one for me?
Yeah, of course. Traveling is the antidote to ignorance.
How about you, Lola? You want to do that next one?
Sure. Travel is fatal to prejudice, bigotry, and narrow-mindedness. And many of our people need it sorely on these accounts. Broad, wholesome, charitable views of men and things cannot be acquired by vegetating in one little corner of the earth all one's life.
And how about you, Kelly? You want to finish us up?
I think you travel to search and you come back home to find yourself there.
So again, hopefully you've had a little bit of time. If you've submitted your favorite quote or the one that seems to resonate with you the most, we're going to show that poll and see where everyone in this room falls. Can we show the poll? Do you know, Cal?
Yeah, so let's share the results.
Here we go.
So, here we go. We got a winner here.
All right. So this is interesting. So in the next slide, I will actually be able to see the authors of these different quotes. And that changes things a little bit for you. But clearly we had a big winner in quote 1 and 2, or poll 1 and 3, sorry. So if you'll close the poll, we'll see these authors attributed.
Okay, I will close it here. Oops, sorry, 1 second.
Any surprises there? Some interesting, authors of these quotes. Obviously, the values that you have, that you hold, this one that resonated most with you probably came out in that selection of your favorite. All of these are, you know, prominent individuals we like to potentially listen to. And I think they all say some of the same things, that travel really is transformational. And so I put OU's motto there because, you know, you're coming to a community that is here to make a living, make a life, and make a difference. And I think travel is a big part of doing that. And so I want to just highlight that. I hope that was kind of fun to see where we all lie there. If you'll do next slide. So there are, I know there's already a few questions. I haven't been able to keep up entirely with the chat while I speak, but I'm sure there are questions about where you can study abroad. And this slide, I think, highlights or begins to address that study abroad can happen anywhere. Oglethorpe is an institution that has programs available from 2 weeks to 2 semesters. We offer immersive fall full semester, spring full semester, summer full semester programs with our international partners, and we do have approximately 15 partners worldwide. I say approximately because not all of our institutions have summer semester, or maybe their calendars don't line up. So we don't always have 15 every term, but we do have partnerships in 15 different locations worldwide. During the summer, and Christina can talk a lot about this, we also have classes that are taught by Oglethorpe faculty in 5 different locations through our partnership with Lead Abroad. And then we have provider affiliations, which means study abroad opportunities are possible worldwide. So, you know, the key thing here, there are options for every student. And one of the things I'll talk about in a minute, or as we close up, are how you can start to explore those options and begin to think about where your study abroad journey will take you. But before we do that, I really do want to focus on our student experiences and the student stories. And so let's go back and introduce Lola and Christina in the next slide a little bit so that you can quickly see a little bit about them as they're talking. But I have a few questions for you ladies now. Thank you again for participating. These are our very busy students, and so I was glad to be able to capture them for this little bit of time tonight. First of all, if you'll start maybe, Christina, what motivated you to study abroad?
So that studying abroad was a very easy decision for me because I've always loved traveling and whatnot. But also being a Spanish minor, I really wanted to excel in my Spanish speaking skills. And I just kind of came across the Lead Abroad Go Barcelona program. I don't even remember how I came across it. I think I was on the Oglethorpe website. I saw that they were taking applications. So I just went ahead and applied. But yeah, just a basic passion for wanting to become fluent in a different language, and knowing that the best way to do that is through immersion. And also Barcelona is beautiful, so.
Absolutely, one of my favorite places in Europe for sure. How about you, Lola? What motivated you to study abroad?
I'll say it was a very easy decision for me too. I've always wanted to go to University of Oxford, even before I moved to the US. So, you know, and that was one of the reasons why I actually decided to go to Oglethorpe University, because of the partnership with the University of Oxford. Also, I had about like three of my sorority sisters who had previously traveled abroad to study, and 2 of them went to France, and then 1 went to like Argentina, Peru, and you know, see the pictures and everything. I was like, wow, they're having so much fun, and I would like to, you know, also like that. And also, I thought, you know, this is the best time to study abroad. I'm young, curious, I'm trying to develop my career. It's something good to have on your resume. So it was just perfect timing, and I thought it was going to be helpful for me in the future.
Yeah. Well, and I think the motivation for study abroad, I asked that question because the motivation for study abroad really is your starting point. Understanding whether it's required for a major, whether you think it's going to bring you job skills, whether you're really interested in languages or foods or a particular location. All of those things are really going to be a big part of finding the right type of program and engaging in study abroad that's going to fulfill your personal needs. So we're going to talk a little bit about that later, but I really wanted to hear from these ladies because I think some of what they say may resonate with some of you that are participating today. So what about the people that you involved in your planning? Because while I love to help students study abroad, and while I think I play a role in this process, there is no way that that can be done with a student and an advisor in the Global Ed office. So who else was involved in your study abroad planning?
I guess I'll answer that first.
Sure.
Well, for me, it was mainly like me, obviously you, Marissa, and then my parents and the team at Lead Abroad. The team at Lead Abroad was actually really helpful in kind of helping me plan things and make sure that I'm on track for things. And then obviously like speaking with my parents, like getting the financial situation figured out and kind of just planning out if I'll be able to do it and what it will look like. I feel like a lot of people don't talk about how much paperwork studying abroad involves and just how much you have to fill out. You have to get your passport in. It's a lot of like planning. So definitely like it's really great to have a support system, and luckily I was lucky enough to have one.
Absolutely. How about you, Lola?
Yeah, for me, of course, we had to involve you, Marisa. So Marisa was a big part of the planning. My teachers, because you had to plan your course schedule, and especially for me because I'm taking a double major and my schedule is really, really tight. So I had to really plan ahead and meet with my academic advisor and my teachers, to see where I can, fill in the courses I study. And I think a big part of my planning had to do with the people who would, students who, had gone abroad. And, it was one of the best decisions I had to make, to sit down with Desiree, one of the people who had traveled. And, she literally took me through every step. What happens when you get to the airport, your trip to Oxford, what it's like, what the road is like, what the transportation is like. So that was a big part of my planning.
Great. I appreciate that. I appreciate that opportunity to hear about, where you're going to, identify family and there's going to be some variables there. What are your other resources? And while, again, I do need to be a part of this process in some way, relying entirely on me gives just one perspective. And I think the key thing, getting multiple perspectives and input. I'd also like to really highlight that beyond the faculty advisor here, there are a lot of staff who have studied abroad. The financial aid office has a particular involvement in this. And I do think that, student leadership, being a double major, all of those things, those are variables that are going to factor in to study abroad. But I hope that through these ladies participating, you can see, you can be super involved, you can have a double major, and you can still make study abroad happen. So I just want to, plug that a little bit. So, I think, Christina, you alluded to this a little bit. You sort of, happened upon, in some ways, the Lead Abroad program. They do outstanding connections as a partner with the campus. They are all over the place talking about the opportunities. And then Lola, I think you highlighted that you've always wanted to study at the University of Oxford, but maybe you can talk about those final decisions or understanding the variables that were important to you and how that factored into your research.
Yeah, I can go first.
Yeah.
I'll say one of the decisions, one of the final factors for me was finances. I had to, of course, do some research on how I can finance my study abroad. And it just so turns out that I can use my FAFSA, which was really good. So my FAFSA was able to apply, to, the scholarships, and my scholarships were able to apply to, the cost for my traveling abroad. And I also had to see how the flexibility of the courses. I think that was one of the big decisions on why I decided to study abroad at University of Oxford, because you can literally study anything and they will find a teacher for you. So that was very flexible for me, and it was very convenient for me. So I would say finances and how I was able to manage my course schedule. Also, I forgot to mention previously, the representatives from Oxford Study Abroad program were super, super helpful, and they will stay connected, from the beginning to the end, literally. So they were also a big factor in this.
Yeah, and I think that's a great opportunity for me to just interject for a minute, Christina, that the partners that we have abroad, they are a critical piece in this process. So when we talk about the people involved in your planning, I think those institutional partners, those campus partners, the organizations that we partner with, they are all a critical component in this. And so one of the things that I encourage students as they start to do their research and start to think about programs is how responsive are those partners? What are the things that they're saying or the questions that you're getting that you feel aren't necessarily meeting what your needs are? And how do they compare to some others? Because everybody's got unique characteristics and needs and considerations, and not every program or partner is going to meet those needs the same way for you. And so I think thinking about that as you're factoring in those decisions. And again, we do evaluate our partners and do try to make sure that they are giving the highest level of service, but how they do that is really, up to those individual partner programs. And so being aware of that and making some decisions around that. What else about the factors in your decision?
Well, finances and the courses that I would be taking were pretty big variables for me. However, the program structure itself was a big variable because it didn't feel like I was just being thrown into a whole new setting without any type of guidance or advice. The Lead Abroad program does a really good job at that because one of my main fears for being abroad for the summer was the language barrier and not understanding cultural differences because just of how different Barcelona is from Atlanta. So it was really nice the way that the program was structured because when we landed at the airport, there were people there to get us from the airport to where we were staying, the student resident, and there were people always on call basically, where you could just call them up and be like, hey, I'm kind of lost. If you ever got lost in the city, they would come get you. If you were, I remember one time I decided to travel to Valencia by myself, and I wasn't able to call a taxi because it was very confusing. But I was able to call up one of the people that work with Lead Abroad and be like, hey, I'm kind of lost. And they were able to help me and get me safely to Valencia. So just how the program is structured, because not all programs have people that are kind of there to help you out with things that you wouldn't think you would find as a challenge when you're in a new country.
Yeah, absolutely. So that just brings up again a really important factor or important point, that when you're thinking about your study abroad, understanding the level of support that you're going to need. I think, again, these two ladies I did sort of hand select because they're on very different types of programs. And so their experiences, both what they bring into the program, but also what the program offers, were quite different. And so I wanted to be able to highlight that. And I think your answer says it all. The partnership with Lead Abroad and the type of support and the level of support from an organization partnership with Lead Abroad is very different than Oxford, where you get a lot of support through the application process. There's an orientation when you arrive, but you're immersed in the community with Oxford students and other students from all over the world. And of course, there's people you can go to ask questions, but they're not necessarily going to be in your space or expectations of you, showing up at certain things, certain times. You are very independent and autonomous.
Absolutely.
Our program options offer all of those different examples, from very high touch and very high level of support to very individual and autonomous. And I think that's a really important thing to think about as you're exploring study abroad. Okay, so Lola, I'm gonna start with you because there's an obvious challenge while you are abroad. But what I want you to think about is the planning stage of study abroad. What were some of the challenges or the experiences you had? And then if you want to talk about, and Christina, thank you for sharing your experience in traveling to Valencia alone. If you want to talk about the challenges while you were on the program, I think that's fine too. But I think as you're planning, what are some things that you learned or experiences that you have that you think you could highlight to the students on the call today?
Yes, I would say one of the challenges I had was, again, my course schedule. That was huge. It almost made me decide not to go, because, again, I'm taking double major, so I had to really squeeze in schedules. So that was a really big challenge for me. Another challenge was, I would say, this might sound, funny, but I was very worried about the weather because I like to be comfy and I like the
So
sun.
important.
Yeah, so it was stressing me out. I was freaking out. I had to get an umbrella. I had to go shopping. I was freaking out. But it turns out it was nothing. Like I was just fine. So that was another big challenge. Overthinking, if you're like me, you like to have everything planned out. So it was very challenging to think about the lifestyle, what's going to happen when I get there, how am I going to survive, how is my day to day going to be like. So the lifestyle was a big challenge before I got there. Well, also finance was a big challenge. It wasn't so much of a big challenge because I was planning ahead, and also because I had scholarships and also my loans from FastFat to help me through. So that was really good. So yeah, I would say this were like the top challenges for me while I was planning.
Great, thank you. What about you, Christina?
For me, I would say some main challenges were definitely just the entire process of making sure that you reach certain deadlines, in terms of because the application process is never just like you fill it out and then boom, you're studying abroad. Like it's a long, like over the course of months type of application process. So just making sure I stayed on top of that was pretty interesting. And then also just, I guess this was like not necessarily like a planning challenge, but more so of like a pre study abroad worry was like, will I get along with people? Will I make friends? I'm going to be in this entirely new place with no one that I know. But I kind of got over that as soon as I landed because people were just really nice, and the program is just, it just fosters community. So it was nice to overcome that challenge in that way. But yeah, I would say the main challenges was just making sure that I reached certain deadlines and making sure that I completed the entire application process correctly.
I so appreciate you sharing that. So one of the things I have and what I use in information sessions that are offered for current Oglethorpe students is trying to compartmentalize the different stages of study abroad and really thinking about the exploration phase and where you are in your research and understanding your options and thinking about what's the right fit or what's financially going to meet my needs or what's academically going to meet my needs. That period of time can be, for some students, 6 to 12 months, right, of just that period of time. Sometimes it's 3 or 4 months, right? A student just has a very honed in. Lola came with a very honed in. I knew exactly what I wanted. That my research didn't take nearly as long, right? But you can't get so tired on the exploration that you don't have the juice, the energy to get through the application process. And the application process, it's not that it's always necessarily a super competitive. It's not about competitive. It's that it's multifaceted, right? We're thinking about your application on a university level and your academic advisor and the courses that you're taking. And then we're also thinking about the health and safety as you're preparing to go abroad, your preparation with a passport. I almost put in a question about how many of you already had a passport, but that's those are things that have to be factored into the application process. In many instances, having a US passport, you may not need a visa to enter a country, but in many instances you might. And so depending on the length of time where you're going or what your passport country is, the visa process gets added in, and those are all variables that mean the application process can range anywhere between 3 to 4 months. And then again, this application process is the time where, as Christina and Lola mentioned, is you're thinking of all of the preparations, right? You're thinking about where you're gonna live. You're, identifying housing if you're on an immersive program like Lola's, or you're thinking about who's my roommate gonna be if you're on a program like Christina's. Am I gonna get along with folks? Starting to build those relationships starts to happen sometimes. So in Lola's case, she was talking to a student who had previously gone on an Oxford program to do her intel and understand what she needed to plan for. In Christina's case, it was working with the Lead Abroad folks to think about how she was going to be matched with a roommate or factor in different adjustment issues to being in a primarily Spanish-speaking country. And so I think not losing sight that that is a part of the study abroad process, and an important one, because it prepares you for this time that you're actually abroad. And so I think you also, both of you, talked a little bit about how you overcame those challenges in your answers. And so I appreciate that. Is there anything else you want to share about just in general getting beyond challenges to the time that you were there, and how gratifying it might have been that you put in that planning ahead of time? We'll talk and share an example of that in any way, how your planning for going abroad really made an impact while you were abroad.
I guess I can share on that. For me personally, I wanted to get in extra travel while I was there. So in terms of planning ahead, please book your flights and book like accommodations ahead, because doing it while you're there is more expensive, and also just it can be very nerve-wracking. So definitely plan, because you'll be in a new country, and then you may make friends and whatnot, and then people will be like, oh, like let's go to this other country, or let's go to this other city. So it's very interesting to just it's very helpful and beneficial to kind of plan travels ahead, because it just makes your life easier in the long run.
Yeah, I'll say for me too. I was definitely going to say that you need to plan ahead. Whether it's finances, whether it's courses, whether it's flights, make sure you plan ahead. But that doesn't mean, if you're making the last minute decision to go study abroad, all things will fail. It won't. But if you can, please plan ahead. And two, do not freak out. Do not freak out about anything. You can ask questions. You have so many resources to help you in school. You can reach out to students like me, and I'm very sure Christina would say the same. If you have any questions, or if you need any help, or if you need any advice or anything, you can give many resources to help you. And also, even when you get there, there's so many resources to help you too. For me, I'm very glad I planned ahead, and it was very it was quite challenging, but it opened my mind to so many things. I learned a lot. I thought I was independent, but when I got there, I was really independent. So, it's really, really exciting. So just stay open-minded, and it's not going to go as bad as you think. It's going to go well. And it's very exciting. I would definitely encourage more people to, go there and use the resources, and, have fun, and study and make the best out of it. I think you're mute, Marisa.
Thank you. I muted and popped out for a minute. I have children, so I'm back, sorry, and unmuted. But you guys did a great job of closing up and giving me an opportunity to think about the last slide, which really is the now what. Because I think you've really highlighted the planning is a big part of preparing to study abroad. The more that you engage with the process while you're, brand new as a student, and start having conversations, participating in some of the global learning experiences I mentioned earlier, the better and the easier some of these things become as you're, getting on the plane and arriving in your new location for however long that may be. And so I actually have these on an animation, Kelly, sorry. Oh, sorry, skip this page. Oh, geez. Technology. Now what? So now what? So Oglethorpe has a global education website. I know there'll be questions about the specific program options, and we will answer those in just a couple of minutes. But I want to highlight that we do have our website with information about each of our partner programs and links to their website. So you can begin to explore now and understand now what some of those options are and begin to connect with the students that have participated on those programs. So the next bullet, we also use a tool. It's only about a year old, so Christina's not as familiar with it as Lola, but we use a program called Via TRM. We call it the Petrol Abroad Portal. It really allows you to explore all of the study abroad options that are available to Oglethorpe students. So that includes our immersive programs, our faculty-led programs, our Lead Abroad summer programs, as well as any partnership we have with programs that go all over the world. And so the exploration can start immediately. And so after this time today, I'm going to get a list of who participated, and you're going to get a link so that you can create your account in VIA and start your exploration before you get to campus. After that, so once you have an account, I'm going to encourage you to try to complete your profile and do some of the program matching. I linked to the Global Education website. We have a couple of quick videos that help you understand why preparing your profile or completing your profile and understanding what those preferences are. That's why that conversation about motivation and what are the factors and the variables, those things become really important to find a right match and get a program that's going to line up with the needs and the preferences that you have. So again, that exploring, next bullet, you're going to be able to consider all of the options that are out there. You can favorite programs. You can begin then to reach out to Global Education. We can give you some additional ways to connect with students that have participated in that program, to sort out. We could look at 3 different programs and talk to you with our expertise about how those different programs function. Obviously, the idea of exploring is that you're bringing to us all the things we can help you make sense of. And then lastly, we have a Global Ambassador program that is going to be launching this fall. It's been informally happening for many years, and it's going to be much more formal. So our Global Ambassadors are going to be on campus and out and about, potentially in your student spaces, whether it's the residence halls or your student organization events, other types of things, to talk about their experiences. So you're not just going to be able to hear from Christina and Lola, you'll get to hear from other students. There'll be events in our system OU Connect, which is the way that we promote all of our events on campus, that will be highlighted as global learning events. So the other thing I want to again tie back to, don't wait to study abroad to start your global learning journey. So with that, I want to look quickly at the wonderful questions that you've been posing, and let's see if as a team we can answer some of them.
Yeah, we have some awesome questions, so let's get to as many as we can. So there's a lot of questions that people are asking that are kind of the same, which is, what are the options? Where can I go? And I know we can't list them all right now, but maybe we could mention some of the most popular, and then I'll link to where they can find all the different options.
Sure. So again, the Global Education website is going to have a list of all of our partner programs. So any of the exchange partnerships that we have where you would be immersed for a semester or more. We also have some of our partnership with Lead Abroad. We have a link there to the Lead Abroad website for those summer programs. But when you create your VIA account, that's really where you're going to be able to see the hundreds of programs available to Oglethorpe students. And so really any place on the map is a potential location for your study abroad. So places like Mexico, which I see a question here, yes, that's possible. Yes, we have a partnership program in Japan. And so we do have that, and it can be done for a full year. I see that question there. The countries with languages beside English, yes, you can take classes at many of our partner programs or partner institutions in English or the native languages of those countries, because France, Switzerland, Germany, all offer courses in English and or, German, French, et cetera, et cetera. So I think even in Spain, our partner is another good example where there are some classes offered in English, but classes offered in Spanish. So it is going to vary based on your language need, what type of program is available to you. We don't have exchange partnerships in every country. Or even every continent. I'd like to change that. But there are going to be a variety of options to meet your needs. And so I wouldn't necessarily focus in on a particular country unless, like Lola, you have a particular specific university or place that you want to study. And I think via TRM and the Petrol portal gives you a way to do that. You identify which languages you would like to study in. And with that, it's going to give you a mixture of what those options would look like. Is there a limit on the number of credits you can get through study abroad? So that's a really great question. It's not really about through study abroad. Oglethorpe does have some expectations around the number of classes you take at Oglethorpe, and study abroad would line up with that. So we have students that participate in multiple study abroad programs, and as long as it falls within the policies for the number of transfer credits that can apply toward your degree, but there's not a limit. So we do want to encourage students to study abroad once, and if you have the ability, study abroad twice, right? We don't have 3 times study abroad yet, but if you want to be that student, I'll help you make it happen. So friends who have studied abroad have hostile experiences with citizens of the country they travel to because of the political climate. I think that's a really important question, and one that we didn't necessarily get into any experiences that Christina and Lola had, but I think they probably could share. You're going to have challenging experiences when you study abroad. The reality is some of that may be out of that specific place that you travel. Maybe there isn't a strong understanding of what Americans bring to the table, and there's a hostile environment. Or maybe it's that you have an identity that in that country isn't a dominant identity. And so you're in a place where you become, something unique and something that is interesting to people. I think that it's a part of what we talk about in a pre-departure conversation. And I absolutely encourage throughout the study abroad process conversations with students. What are you doing to prepare and do your research about a particular location? We work with a partnership with an organization called Diversity Abroad that is really doing outstanding work throughout the US with universities and with study abroad programs to help students hear from other students around particular experiences. And so I do think, having an awareness that you're going to have potential challenges in a country. I'll give my example of studying abroad in Venezuela many years ago, a couple of decades ago. There weren't that many students studying in Venezuela. And at the time, being an American was this really, glamorous thing. But there was also a lot of distrust and discomfort with what we brought to the table as an American. And so having some of those conversations, I never felt unsafe, but there were definitely some experiences that as a young person, I was not necessarily prepared for because I hadn't considered how being a US person in Venezuela might be, right? So I think being aware and recognizing that you're going to have experiences of cultural conflict, it's called. Hostility is something that we really look at very differently. So I want to open up that conversation a little broader and recognize that safety is a big part of what we do to talk about before you study abroad. We can't manage or control all aspects, but it is something we want to explore in those pre-departure conversations. Study abroad programs in London. So again, we have the partnership with Oxford. It's not in London. We don't have any specific exchange partnerships in London, but there are lots of opportunities to study abroad in London through partner affiliated study abroad providers, as well as potentially some European opportunities through our Lead Abroad partnerships. Scholarships. So one of the other reasons I shared the Global Education link is there is an entire page dedicated to scholarships. And scholarships for study abroad are a very big thing. There are some very specific things like country specific, scholarships for study in Germany. And then there are language specific. And then sometimes it's about, just trying to diversify the study abroad demographics. So, at this time, study abroad is predominantly women. So if you are a male interested in studying abroad, you're a minority. You are not of the majority of students who participate in study abroad. And so there may be some opportunities for you to have funding or get funding based on different demographic variables, criteria. Students with disabilities is another good example. There are examples of where, organizations are really trying to make sure that individuals of all experiences and all students in higher ed get to study abroad. And so I think understanding that that list isn't necessarily one that is comprehensive to every scholarship that's out there, but I think be thinking about what you know about yourself and what you think you could do in a study abroad application to say how this is life-changing for you when you look at that list that's on our website. So how do you find individuals who have been a part of study abroad programs? So I talked about the Global Ambassador Program, and that may have been before this question, or I'm sorry, after this question came in. I can connect you with students who have studied abroad in a particular region or a country, whether they're on the Oglethorpe campus or whether they're through that network with Diversity Abroad. There will be people to support you, but I think I want to really stress here that your experience with study abroad and your experience with the process may not be the exact experience that the next person has, right? We're all unique. We all have our own characteristics and variables about what we bring to the study abroad. And so I think to Lola's example, something to tie into, she spoke with a student, the student walked her through everything, but I'm sure her personal experience was still slightly different than what the student prepared her for. And so I think thinking about that, utilizing your peers, utilizing the different faculty that have studied abroad or led faculty-led study abroad on our campus, they're resources, but there is not necessarily a one-size-fits-all on how this is going to be in terms of your experience with preparing for study abroad or actually being abroad. I'm going to leave the next one to the end. So how much financial aid goes with you when you study abroad is a great question. So the financial aid that travels with you is somewhat dependent on the type of program that you participate in. And I say that because if you are going on a program that is an Oglethorpe program, like an exchange partnership where you are enrolled in Oglethorpe classes, but you're going to one of our partner institutions, you're not actually paying tuition at that institution. So FAFSA doesn't apply in the same way. I think understanding that some semesters, summer semester might be a good example. The way that FAFSA applies during the summer is not the same as it might apply during a fall or a spring. So one of the things I want to highlight is we do an entire 1 hour, and I'll record that and have that available for this year's group. But we do an entire 1 hour session, the Director of Financial Aid and I, to talk through the different scenarios, the types of programs, and the preparation that you can do related to thinking about the financial aspects. There are also outstanding resources out there of videos that other students have presented, of crowdsourcing, ideas of how you can start to crowdsource and fund your study abroad through your network. So there is a lot out there that I won't say that I necessarily promote as heavily on our website, but if you do a couple of Google searches, I think you're going to find some really interesting things that individual students do to help each other think about financing study abroad. So is there a way to use study abroad to take place of a politics or a legal class? So again, the idea of study abroad for academic credit, which is really what I'm focusing on today, because there are types of study abroad where you can, volunteer for 2 weeks during the summer and do a non-credit program. Everything I'm talking about today, the end goal is to try to make sure that you're taking classes that will count toward your Oglethorpe academic degree and your degree requirements. So I am unfamiliar with any student going abroad and saying, I'm just going to take classes for fun. They don't have to count toward my major. Pretty much every student goes in wanting every class or nearly every class to count toward their major. And we make that happen. We work with faculty. That's why we have these partnerships. There is, and I think Lola alluded to this, there is a process involved to do that. But I think we have outstanding faculty who work individually with students to look at the class that's being taught abroad. How does it align with classes that are being taught here, and can it be something for a major to replace, or is it something that's an elective that can add toward those total number of credit hours? And I think the planning from the beginning and communicating with your Compass advisor, and then communicating again when you have your faculty advisor that you're interested in study abroad, is a big part of that process, because you start that decision making around what classes you take now and what classes you add into your study abroad experience very early. So the biggest piece of advice for students who want to study abroad, I mean, I have lots of advice, but I think, Lola started to say probably the most important thing: be open-minded and be flexible. The thing that I think can detract from the value of a study abroad is going in with a fixed mindset that I must have this, and this is how it has to look, and these are the things that I expect will happen, and if they're not happening, I'm not going to be happy with what this experience was. I think that is not a mindset that will bring the most growth and experience a positive outcome for you and for those that are trying to help you, because we want to make sure that you're getting what you're looking for, but there's not necessarily in a study abroad experience, again, a one size fits all. So you're going with a group of students, or you're going to a campus that has a group of students. And so I think being able to be adaptable and flexible, is the most important thing. The rest of the things will fall in place, and you'll be surprised at the end of all the things that you thought weren't going to come into fruition the way you wanted, ended up being exactly what you needed. So ladies, I answered those questions, but my intent is to actually ask, were there parts of those answers? I didn't want to forget, oh, there's another question. I didn't want to forget to answer anyone's and run out of time. What did I miss?
I feel like the biggest thing, sorry, Lola.
No, it's fine.
I feel like the biggest thing for me in terms of answering the question of like, what's the biggest advice you would give to someone wanting to study abroad? For me personally, my biggest advice is to just do it. And then once you do it, like, do everything. Like when you're in this new space, just do everything. Like, don't stay in your dorm room or at home or wherever you're staying. Like, go out, experience the city, try to make friends, meet the locals. I remember one of the most important things, but also the most like amazing things I did was go to language exchanges every single week. And that, it was outside of my Spanish class, but it helped me advance in my Spanish so much faster because I was going to this space where I was just talking to people in the language that I was trying to learn. And that's also how you meet locals and people that are just also traveling as well. So it's amazing. And if you get an opportunity to skydive, do it. I wish that I went skydiving. That was one of the things that I regret. But this is why I'm telling you, it's just do it, do everything. Just take advantage of every single opportunity that you have, because you never know when you have it again.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'd say both of you are pretty much already said what I was going to say. Plan ahead, be open-minded, I mean, it's going to be amazing. Be ready to, try new food. I tried lots of food and I loved the food. I loved the food. I think that's like one of my favorite part of my trip. But I didn't think I loved food that much until I traveled abroad and I'm like, wow, I really love food. But anyways, yeah, so try new things. Try to go out, try the food, talk to people. And when you get there, make sure you have the contact about the question about going to a new space and people being hostile and everything. I think make sure you have the resources, the people who are there, you can contact them if you have any issues or if you're nervous or if you need to get out of a place. Go in groups, when you get there, trust me, everyone is also nervous. You're going to see other people who are studying abroad. Everyone is feeling the same way you're feeling. So, try to make friends with one or two people, you can always have by your side, when you're going out or when you need to try new things. So be open-minded. And like Christina said, just to do it, like just do it. And it's going to be amazing.
So I saw there was actually one more question in the Q&A, and it says, has there ever been a trip that a student has gone, an Oglethorpe student has gone alone? Absolutely, yes. We have students who study abroad regularly, particularly with our partner programs, but also on any of our provider programs. We have a student who studied in 3 different countries over 18 weeks. Last fall, and she was entirely by herself. There wasn't another Oglethorpe student in that program. There were other students. In contrast, other US students. In contrast, we have a student who studied in our partnership in Iceland entirely by himself. He did it, a full semester abroad in Iceland, the only student from Oglethorpe, potentially one of a small number of US students on that campus. And I think, again, that's not that it's going to be the right thing for every student, but we have that range of options available, and it's where those conversations with myself or someone that you find as your supporter or one of us, the student, around what is the right fit, what is that good comfort level for you. You need to be pushed a little, right? You got to get out of your comfort zone to learn, right? You have to have a little bit of discomfort to move into a space of learning. But we also, do want to make sure students are aligning their needs with what that space, what that environment is going to offer. And so that becomes a big part of the conversation and advising. So there's also a question about when is the Global Exchange Day. So it's actually called International Education Week at Oglethorpe. It is celebrated nationwide and worldwide. It's an initiative between the Department of State and the Department of Education. And it happens the second week in November every year. So we try to ensure that it is a very student-facing event where our students share their cultures, share their experiences from studying abroad, and as much as possible, highlight what the value and the benefits of having that intercultural experience are. And then there's a question or a comment about studying in the country that you are a citizen of. Again, I don't think that there's any reason that you can't do that. I do always want to encourage students to have an intercultural experience when you are studying abroad, but I don't get to be the judge of what that looks like for you, right? So every student's going to decide how that intercultural experience, what's best and what makes sense for your circumstances. So I think that was all of the questions, but I want to make sure there aren't any more in these last couple of minutes. I do hope you got a high level, understanding or overview of the Global Education Office and study abroad being a particular experience or particular opportunity that Oglethorpe provides our students. I hope that, or I believe that the student experiences that you heard from show some really unique experiences, but some common threads about preparing, doing your research, and involving lots of people in that process, knowing who your supporters are and getting them involved. It was wonderful to be with everyone tonight. I want to thank Lola and Christina again for taking time out of their schedules, and Kelly for coordinating this. And I'll give you a couple minutes to close up if there's anything else.
Yeah, thank you guys so much all for participating. Our panelists, you guys are amazing, and we appreciate everybody for watching as well. It's really great that you're being proactive already and thinking about these things, because an experience we want everybody to have if they want to have it. It sounds like, Marisa, you plan to follow up a little bit with our participants so they could look out for an email from you.
Yeah, expect it'll probably be next week. Just know that it's going to take a little bit of time for Kelly to get that list to me, and then I will work on making sure all of you get a link from via TRM to create an account. If you decide to ignore it for now, don't worry, there'll be other opportunities. I can resend that at another time, but that is a great way to start you know, exploring and looking at all of the variety of options that are available to you.
Perfect. And you are also welcome to start exploring the ALAB website if you haven't already. Take a look at the partner universities with us. You can look at lead abroad options, get a little bit of an idea of what might be interesting to you so that we can start helping you beginning in the fall. I think that should be it. So we really appreciate everyone joining us. If you have any follow-up questions, let your admission counselor know. You can also, you know, let Marisa know after you are able to hear from her later on. But we are excited to get started with you with all of this in the fall, and we will see you soon. Hope everyone has a great rest of their day. Bye.